everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make a card using the January stamp of the month called Every Thank You. You can get this stamp with for $5 with any $50 purchase, or for free with a $50 purchase if you're a VIP. So I often design along the way when I'm filming, and this video is one of those instances, and I will point out areas where I changed up the design or my design flaws, and then I'll show you the corrected version at the end of the video. So let's get started. Okay, this is the stamp set, Every Thank You, and I'm going to be using the stencil from Stencil Pack 1, it's the one with the hearts, and papers from Happiness Lives Here, and some peach and white daisy cardstock. So I'm going to take a piece of white daisy and cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4. And this will be the base that I'm going to use my stencil on. So I'm going to use some of this pixie spray. It's a low tack spray to secure my stencil in place. So you just spritz it, and I have it in the spritz box so the spray doesn't go everywhere. And I should have waited another 30 seconds for it to set up before I put it down on my cardstock. So that was mistake number 1. So I'm using peach ink and a blending brush. And here's mistake number 2. I neglected to clean my brush properly. So it still had some, I don't know, like a turquoise color on some of that ink was still on the brush. So it made my peach color on my cardstock a little bit darker, but as it dried, it worked. So clean your stuff. So I'm just swirling this around in those openings where the hearts are, and I'm not I want it to have like some shading around the edges of each of the hearts, and so I'm not being like too careful to get a smooth blend. I like having the differences in each of those sections. So I have placed a variety of these thank you sentiments from this stamp set on my Misty, and I'm going to stamp multiple times over this piece of cardstock that I've created, and I'm using paprika ink. So I want to do a random stamped background panel with the thank yous. So I stamped it out first, and I should have stamped this a little bit further over to the left and then stamped again for a continuous pattern. And rather than pushing it up, because I know I'm going to use some of that pattern paper in the center, I wanted to make sure that you saw all of the thank yous. That was my thinking here. So I went ahead and pushed the panel all the way to the top so that I could stamp that again at the bottom. But in retrospect, what I should have done is just made continuous random stamping and moved my card panel around so that there was stamping continuously from top to bottom and side to side. So you'll see how I move this around in the center portion and have part of it off the edge and go in a continuous line where I pick up the rest of the stamp on the right side. So this is the process and how you do it. But you do it over the entire panel rather than cherry picking like I did here. So off camera, after I finished this card, I went back and redid it, and then I'll show you close-ups of what that looks like at the end. And while this card turned out nice, I wasn't completely happy with it. So you'll see how I fixed things. So this is the process for getting that continuous random stamp. So do that from top to bottom and you'll get a much better finished product. Okay, so then I'm going to bring my Big Shot in, and I'm going to cut out a scalloped circle. These are still available in my online store. And and I'm cutting it out on the light side of peach. Okay, so I'm going to stamp. I've loaded onto my block here more of those thank you sentiments, and this fits that scallop circle. So I'm going to stamp thank you in paprika ink in the center of the scallop circle here. Okay, so let's start building the card. Got my card base here. It's going to be a regular A2 card side fold. So I'm going to take the dark side of peach, and this will be my card base. So I'm going to cut this at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then that inked card panel will go on top of that. And then I'm going to have this strip kind of in the middle of the card. And I thought 1 1/2 inches was going to be okay, but when I looked at proportions after I had everything pulled together, ultimately I wound up cutting that piece at 1 3/4. Okay, so I'm laying everything out on my card front before I start adhering it all. And it needs some definition between the pattern paper and the background. So I'm going to use some of this shimmer trim, and it is at 1/2, it's a 1/2 inch. And so I'm going to cut this at 4 1/4 so it can lay across the front of my card. And after I had everything pulled together, I realized that those strips were too wide. And so I wound up cutting those in half. So they're 1/4 inch. I took one strip and then cut it in half. And it's tricky to do that in your trimmer, but it's possible. So you just have to be very patient. So I'll just show you this, and then I'll show you the finished version. So I'm just tacking everything down with Tombow tape, and then I'll put my shimmer trim down. It has a backing on it, and it's self-adhesive, so you just lay that out and see how those they're too wide, too much. So okay, so these are the bits of foam tape that's left over from a shaker card. So I'm going to pop my thank you sentiment using the foam tape. So that's that finished version. And then the next picture will be the corrected one. Okay, so see how that center section is wider, and the shimmer trim is skinnier so it doesn't overpower it. And then I've added a couple of Bluebell shimmer, what are those, sparkles, also for some added interest. And I have also inked the edges of the scalloped circle with peach ink to give it a little bit more definition. So you can always go back and fix your card or make a whole new one. No worries. So I liked how this final one turned out much better. So I appreciate you watching my video today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. And thanks for watching.